Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. David Jackson here with Maria Armstrong from Pax8 Academy. Can you just confirm you can see my screen? I'm having a Teams issue for a sec.
Yes, it all looks good from my point of view.
Fantastic. So this is the second webinar in our series, Building Your MSP webinar series. So this one, our topic today, MSPs in the world of cloud-first clients. A little bit about myself. Got how to drive a computer. Here we are. I've been long time working in and around MSPs. So I ran a MSP in Melbourne for about 8 years. I eventually sold that to another competitor in Melbourne. Ran as an operations manager for 2 other MSPs also in Melbourne. Since then, I moved to Sweden. I went for a year in 2014 to Sweden. Forgot to come home. We visited in summer and it was really lovely, and then decided to move and arrived in the middle of January and it was just grey and we're like, what have we done? Despite that, we ended up being there for 7 or 8 years. While I was there, got a master's of entrepreneurship. I did a bit of other training. But most of the time I was overseas, and since then, I've actually been doing consulting and coaching with MSPs. So I worked with ConnectWise as a consultant for Manage and Sell, YSync on the finance side, independent consulting, and with C-level operations, which is the group that was acquired that became Pax8 Academy. So now, working on coaching and this sort of content and peer groups. We'll cover some of this stuff at the end. All right. So let's see, technology. Cool. So we're looking today, sorry, one second, IT problems. So I've been a bit unwell this week, so if I pause and run out of breath and look like I'm failing to breathe, I'm okay. I'm just catching my breath. But we're gonna keep moving. So today we're looking at a bit of a background of where we've come from in the IT world, what cloud first is and what it means, and how do we as IT companies succeed in this new world. So where have we come from? This is hopefully not going to cause too many flashbacks or PTSD moments, but what came before managed services? What did IT used to look like? We had ad hoc, minimal planning, DIY IT, PC work groups, file shares, white box PCs, mix and match software, no standards, everything a bit all over the place. Install anything, anywhere, whenever, and cheap hardware, cheap printers, cheap internet, do it all easy. And backups were not really a thing. Hopefully that's changed. And coming with that, we found the computers that broke, the data was everywhere. We had data sprawl and duplication. Clients would lose data. Software would be incompatible or out of date. We'd have all this effort of managing software keys and media. Do you remember the USB network print servers? You try and plug in and trying to get some cheap USB printer that they didn't want to spend money on the network version. So this, file format incompatibilities with Office. Just spending how many hours I spent trying to get that stuff working. BlackBerry Enterprise server. Thank goodness that has gone. And changing backup tapes, I guess, best case scenario, that you had them and that you were changing them, or chasing that receptionist who kept forgetting to change it, or who lost it on the bus, or So that's what IT was. But we have fixed this. Lo and behold, welcome our heroes, our MSPs. We have solved these problems. We installed a server, we had an Active Directory, we had logins that worked, we centralized our data. The functionality was all in one spot. We knew where it was. We'd backed it up. We had tapes, we had a NAS, we maybe even backed it up online. Name brand PCs, we had warranty. We had patching of our operating systems, standardized versions of software. We'd locked down our computers so that clients couldn't install things. Yes, security kind of meant antivirus plus a router, but it was the good old days. But we got used to maintenance and support contracts. And the other thing that we solved, one of that, again, we did manage to exclude anything that was too hard. We could just exclude it. But what that came with for the client was a lot of increased upfront costs for hardware, for setup, looming capital cost every couple of years. It was a really complicated solution that they needed support for. They couldn't do it themselves anymore. So this complexity added a lot of burden, ongoing maintenance and admin, increased ongoing costs for support, and they were dependent on you or I or their IT guy to give them permission to do something. So, and the client still didn't really understand what was going on. There was always that friction as well. Was it DIY or is it DIMSP? Picking up the pieces after the client gets their new laptops from Harvey Norman or signs up for a new phone plan, etc. And then you're like, oh, this client, what's going on? Again, small business server, better than, ESE util, trying to replay exchange logs, roaming profiles, filling the server hard drive with the client's holiday photos. So again, hopefully we're not missing those days too much either. So we managed to solve problems. We brought clients had unstructured ad hoc technology. They kind of made it work. And we brought that forward and we helped bring that to managed IT. And we're done. That's it. We fixed everything. Clients only do what you're allowed to do or what you let them do. No meddling, no breaking anything. You locked it down. We're done. Job done, right? Oops. Somebody mentioned that cloud. So for a lot of IT providers, it feels like they would have been very happy if the cloud never happened. Would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you pesky clients who thought about the cloud. And now we're stuck. Now not everything is inside our boundary. Not everything depends on an admin password. We can't lock it down. Well, withholding the admin password, which we do because clients don't know how to use their systems. But the thing is that the genie's out of the bottle and we can't put it back in. So more options. But now we have cloud. For a lot of your existing clients that you had from those early days, a lot of those are, I'm going to say they're not cloud first, maybe they're cloud as well or cloud eventually, whatever we call it. But nothing much really has changed. They are mindset-wise the same clients that you had who were willing to invest on site, willing to do the work and work with you. And so you've got a bit of a hybrid solution. You've got a bit of cloud, a bit of on-prem. They're still used to it. There's a bit of working from home. But this is these clients, your traditional clients, to some extent, these are not the clients we're talking about today. There is a whole extra range of clients who are what we're going to call cloud first. The ones who have come from this sort of historical, they use the cloud a bit just because they find, you've convinced them it's cheaper to run 365 instead of Exchange Server. But overall, these are the same clients. But if a client started again, if they sold their business, they started a new one, whatever it is, would they look like your existing clients? Would they be in the same place? There's a old Irish joke. Someone's driving, they get lost and they stop in the countryside and they're like, excuse me, how do I get to Dublin? And the guy answers and he says, well, I wouldn't start from here. So yes, it's both true and completely unhelpful. If you're going to start again, you're not going to start with all of the legacy and with all of that baggage. So if you're starting again, if you've got clients who are starting today, cloud only is pretty much the default. Staff can work from wherever. It's frictionless. There is no remote because there really isn't an office half the time. Hang on a second. Now I need to breathe again. Apologies. But yeah, if you're starting a business, you don't need to spend that money up front, buy a server just in case. Am I going to grow? Am I going to be one or two people for a while? Maybe I'm going to be 10 or 20. I don't know. So do you spend that money up front? It doesn't really happen. And a lot of the feeling for these clients is everything's too simple to break, so I don't need to pay for support. And everything's BYOD. Does anyone have any clients like this? I don't know if you can do thumbs up in the chat or anything, or raise your hand. Yeah, we've got a couple of thumbs. And so cloud first is happening. So this gets to one of our interactive bits. What is cloud first? And I would love if we got 30 or so people, I think. It'd be fantastic if we could just get a few thoughts in the chat about what does cloud first even mean? I mean, I've got my idea, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. Marie, if you see them in the chat, do you mind reading a few out?
Joseph said visualizing workstations to a point. Oh, sorry, virtualizing. My reading skills not doing well. Sorry, Joseph, that was me, not your typing.
Anyone else? What is cloud? What is cloud first? Have we
There's
unlocked that?
no right answer to this. We have had many a quite robust discussion as to what cloud first means internally in our team, and it's very interesting. You know, we speak to MSPs all over the region, and everyone has a different view. So it's quite interesting to work through. Phil has said removing the need to connect back to the office to access resources.
Mm-hmm.
Removing the borders of the workspace from Joel. Storing critical data online. Using the available cloud systems over legacy on-prem. Reduced management overhead. Third path to use data and apps. So there's quite a diverse data safety.
Mm-hmm.
Safety is a good one.
There's a lot of, yeah. So everyone's like, we kind of know what cloud is. It means it's a server under somebody else's stairs instead of under yours. But cloud first, is that just mindset or what is that? So I've got a few ideas. So thanks for those ideas. Appreciate it. One thing we're seeing with, again, cloud first, if we're looking at sort of how I was talking about it, if you're starting again, you're not going to start from where we started. There are younger owners, of our clients, not just of IT companies, but the clients, there are younger owners and younger staff demanding more capabilities. There's an evolution. A lot of that complexity is gone. Like I was asking those questions before, but BlackBerry Enterprise Server, world of pain. But now you just connect to a standard exchange and it just connects. When's the last time you had I couldn't open my copy of Word, this file in Word because it's the wrong format. A lot of these issues just don't exist anymore. And again, culturally and societally, we know we just download an app. I got something I need to do. I'll just download an app for that. Now we sign up for a SaaS product. And so I think one of the distinctions is people are choosing this now. You may not see them coming through your doors. You may not see them when you're prospecting. But I think there is quite a lot of people who are choosing this approach, and they're sort of avoiding IT, engaging with IT completely. So why do we want the cloud? What's the dream? So part of it is freedom. The dream for the, I get to no baggage, no legacy. I can do it DIY. And this is a big one for some clients. I don't have to ask permission first. I can do what I want to do. I have a particular problem. I can solve it with that SaaS solution or this one or the other. Low overhead. I don't have to have as many, expensive network and servers and even workstations. Frictionless working from home, from anywhere. But hopefully by now you know that I've got more and more to this. And then what's that actually like? So the cloud isn't perfect. The cloud does have problems. It's a bit more of a Wild West than that. It's freedom, but it's also unfettered in a lot of ways. There is a lot of data sprawl. There's a lot of duplication of data, just like we had in the bad old days. Backups don't exist. Again, no access control, no management, poor integrations, connections between services and applications. There's a huge impact on your security stance. There's no map, there's no plan. There's a lot of choices that will work, some better than others. There's a lot of impacts to processes. We were talking with a client, and they were like, "Oh, we're changing our order processing system," and it's like, "Oh, that's great. And does this integrate with Xero?" And they're like, "What's that?" And we're like, "Oh, that's your finance package that does the invoicing." And have you told your bookkeeper that they're now manually going to enter, 1,000 transactions a month because you haven't got the integration? Oh, so there's a lot there that can happen. They can dig themselves into a hole pretty easily. And again, there's usually a lot of duplication of solutions. As you look into bigger companies, there's a lot of shadow IT. There's a lot of, we have OneDrive and we have Dropbox and we have 3 other solutions that do the same thing. And they're spreading the data around, and we're also paying for it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Back to my pretty picture. So we have our cloud, and guess what? We're back in the same DIY. So Mark Twain quote, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme." There's a lot of similarities here to what it was like back in the good old days. We look at a lot of those issues I was talking about. I'm just going to go back to like the data duplication and no backups and access control. We might look at those and cringe and be like, "Oh, that's a problem." But the worst part is the client probably doesn't even see them as problems or care. And if they don't care about those, why would they spend any money on it? If their mindset is these aren't an issue, then us as IT guys working with them are just not necessary. But all of the talk we've had around cloud and what it can do and what it's being used for ignores a very important question, which is what do the clients actually need and how can technology help them? We've sort of looked at why cloud can be good, but we haven't said why the clients would want this. So again, kind of first principles, what do the clients want? What do they need? They kind of want IT to get out of the way, stop being frustrating, stop sucking up all their time, get rid of the headaches. They have some sort of a vision and they just want to get it done. And so how can IT speed them up and not interfere? And the other thing is that problems are now higher up the stack. We're not having infrastructure problems anymore. We're not having my network port on my hardware I need to change out because it's not working, or we don't have these issues anymore. It just sort of works. We're not having login issues anymore. We're not having so many things that until now have been solved. And now the problems we're having are those business problems. So most of what they want to solve is application. I want to pull data from this system, find a better solution for X. And this does come in at a different level. Sometimes they just know they have a problem and they don't know what the solution is. And sometimes they found a solution, but they need to actually leverage it and integrate it and make it work. So what could, again, if you saw my little diagram, there's a big empty hole in the bottom right corner. What could this look like from an outcomes point of view? What could we bring as IT professionals with a lot of experience? What can we bring to these clients in this new world? It's not really technical skills anymore. Most of the complexity is gone. Last month I was talking about like 60-70% of help desk tickets are level 1 tickets now. It's not complex, it's just tedious. A lot of these small organizations don't have a plan. They don't have any strategy. And on some levels, that's fine. But like we were saying about the integrations and how things hang together, that's not always helpful. So what can we bring? We can just bring the advice, the efficiency, the basic setup, advice on risk. Some of this stuff is there. But if we position this and we're looking at how can we develop an offering for clients, and I'm not calling this one cloud first, I'm calling it outcomes first. So instead of just saying, yay, cloud, let's go cloud, it doesn't matter about the cloud. What matters is how do we enable the client to be more agile? How do we enable the client to be able to meet their business needs? And so here's a few attributes. I started bolding the ones that I thought were important, and then I realized I bolded pretty much everything here. This is not IT anymore in some ways. This is not how IT was. It was very easy to be a techie first. And again, I covered this last month to some extent. Hang on, I need to breathe again.
Breathing's very overrated, David.
Sorry, everyone. Where were we? Yeah, so it was very easy to be a pure IT focused company. I am the best person to solve this particular technical problem. And that's okay. You can do that and you can be that. But a lot of the growth and a lot of the need at the moment that we're seeing from the Academy side is in this enablement beyond, people who aren't coming from that legacy position. And so some of those key attributes that we're seeing here is focusing on the business needs and the outcomes, understanding the client's goals and helping them achieve them, management and identification of risks. This is one of the biggest ones, particularly around security and cybersecurity, resiliency, recoverability, continuity. 3 small words, but that even that one line is probably the main takeaway I've got here. It's about the client and efficiencies and enablement and whatever that means, but it's helping them actually get stuff working. Integration, risk management. Even talking of recoverability, continuity, MSP coaching client of mine, I went off for Christmas break and I was working with one of his other staff members. We were trying to connect a couple of things and he was off I think he was skiing somewhere in Europe. I'm not sure where he was. So he hadn't gone under a bus. He was available. He was contactable, but we spent 2 or 3 meetings sitting on our hands effectively because we couldn't get access to certain credentials were meant to be an IT glue, but they weren't. Some other login was somewhere that wasn't meant to be. Something was directly connected to his 2FA or his etc. And so even for a owner of an IT company, who had set up a lot of these tools. They had IT glue, they had a lot of these systems. The cloud just works, but nobody actually tests sort of the DR side of things. What does it mean to be recoverable or have resiliency in this? There's a lot of, again, one of those questions is, have you got a list of all the tools you use and all the systems you've signed up for? Not even from the risk and where is my data, but what do I use every day and can everyone access it if they needed to? And if I lost my phone and we all lost our 2FAs, could we get in? Do we know what we need to recover? And so one of the big things I guess I've got here is this change is coming. And there's surely a lot of songs about that. The changes are coming, but the opportunity is there. There are new problems to solve. We've got experience solving problems. That's more or less what we do, or what we've done as IT professionals is solving problems. And so how do we leverage our skills to solve these new problems and help our clients get closer to that dream that they had, that freedom dream? So the change is coming. We've got cloud first DIY and this outcomes first. So this is it. This is where I think we are seeing a lot of this focus moving forward. But what's the role of IT in that? And I've kind of covered some of this. You can't unring that bell. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. The clients are going to move to cloud, whether you like it or not. Another pop quiz. Does anyone have teenagers? I don't yet, but I have a 5-nager, which is thanks, Maria. How well does it work to prohibit them from doing something? You're absolutely not going out and you're absolutely not allowed to do it. They're going to do it and they're just not going to tell you about it. So it's sort of that harm minimization, risk minimization approach. I want to know where all your data is and what services you've signed up for, so at least we can make sure they're backed up. Yeah, you got 10 more than I'd like you to have, but at least they're on the list and we can track it. And so for the clients, like for you guys, I guess that's our choice: is do we want to help our clients as they go down this path? But the other side here is that we can be that guide. We can be the torch bearer and shining the path and here is the vision and this is what it can be. It doesn't have to just be following them. You can also be setting that trend and saying, this is, if you want this, come this way. You can be setting up standard solutions. And we'll talk a bit at the end about how we can succeed in this market. But one of those ways is if you are in a certain niche or you're working with clients in a certain niche, if you know what the landscape looks like for accountants or for whatever it is, even the deepest, tiniest niche, if you know what the line of business applications are, what the systems are, what the requirements are, and you know that territory and you can lead the way through that territory, then you can be servicing quite deeply these sort of customers. You don't need to be the expert in everything for everyone. You need to be able to do that in a particular niche. We don't need to, but you can bring that definitely. I said this is a slide I'm just reusing from last month. We're talking about growth curves. Most industries go through a curve, something like this. They start out, things are kind of sideways, they grow, they get better, they die out. Excuse me. If we are trying to, if we assume that this is IT infrastructure support, and we're going to call this on cloud, we have two approaches really that we can have here. We can try and delay extinction. We can try and milk this as much as we can all the way down, try and stretch that out and make it last. We can avoid it, we can change, and there is a gap here and things may get inefficient and uncomfortable and maybe less profitable for a while you're changing. And there's room for that. You can be the best on-premise support company. You can be the best COBOL programmer. You can be the best horse and buggy maintenance repair guy. And that's not easy, but that's what we know. We can just keep doing this. But the client and the market is moving up from underneath us. And so we have the choice. We can also pivot, change to a different model, change to a different target market, change to a different approach. So I just wanted to use this again because I thought it was helpful. A few people got in touch and said this was quite helpful from last month. So how do we succeed in the new world? What existing tools and skills do we have that we can bring to this? So the skills and capabilities that we have, we're problem solvers. Probably every IT person I know is a problem solver. So we come up with solutions. We just need to remember we're not just talking technical anymore, and we're talking about business issues. It's like put on your solution architect hat, put on your pre-sales scoping hat. Don't just think about the technical. What do we need to do? So the skills we have that we can just apply, and there's other things that we do need to do. We need to change and grow. We need to take the time to understand the clients that we're working with. I said before about going deep in a niche. That saves you time because you know the niche and you know the market, and you can even, again, you can be that torchbearer and bring and tell the clients what they actually don't know themselves. But yeah, what new solutions can we provide? So we're getting actually close to the end. This is faster than I thought. So we've got two models here that I want to go into. And there's sort of not positioning, but one is perhaps for more established businesses or a bit larger. And some is for the smaller, more agile, newer MSPs who are still haven't kind of got as much investment in the old model, who are, able to pivot perhaps faster. For existing larger MSPs, some of that focus around that enablement and the outcomes, the bigger end of town, like these application integrations and the data and the focusing there, a large amount of what I'm seeing success with clients is having those conversations about risk and about insurance and about how do we mitigate our risks and how do we manage that. And it's the deep relationships that we've got with our clients there and that we're able to solve that. As a longer term thing, you're going to have a lot of legacy clients. Obviously, we're not saying get rid of them, but it's going to be, they are also, again, they're going to rejuvenate. They're going to probably start shedding their on-premise stuff. You're going to get new clients who are coming into this. And again, if you're able to solve a lot of that problem at a deeper level, that is going to serve you quite well. The second is for smaller or newer MSPs who are still finding their model. A model that we're seeing here that can work is the IT manager as a service. So you're providing advice, coordination, enablement. You're selling advice. So $200, $300, $400 per client per month. You get an hour or two of advice. You see some legal services like this. Call us with any legal question you've got, and we'll answer it. If it gets too hard, obviously we'll tell you it's a project and bill you for it, but we'll explain any contract you get and we'll give you the high level overview. So even that level of service is something that is definitely of value. You don't need to build out your own help desk, your own VoIP solution, your own cloud, your own data center, or you can resell someone else's. Take a 20% margin, aim for a 20% cut across the top of everything that you sell. You can sell hardware, 20% margin, because it's not just hardware, it's advice as well. You can sell those projects as well, enablement projects. You can be the project manager or even just the coordinator, and you're subcontracting that. Some other tech company is able to do the work. You're making sure it gets done, and you're sitting in that central spot, understanding the business and coordinating technology for them. And there's also room for recurring services there for further training, enablement, integrations there. There's a lot of opportunity with cloud in this model. There's a lot of new ways of working, and having a sense of that outcomes first and where they are. And I'm going to go back to that slide. We're going to open up the questions in a sec. Yeah. So this focus, again, this high-level approach, quite different to where we usually come from around IT. Half the time, again, a lot of clients I talk to are sort of like, yeah, we kind of look at their goals, but it's very high level. They say a couple of keywords and we jump in and say, okay, well, you need this or that. So this is the pivot that I'm suggesting we need to make in our own heads, even if we're not immediately changing what happens in the market and how we're approaching the market. There's a lot of ways of working for the clients, and there's a lot of options for us. And the sort of question that I'm posing to you is where do you want to go from here? So Maria, I'm going to pass over to you for the next bit. And then we intended after our last one, some feedback was it was good, but too long. Probably could have done that in 2 halves. So we're intentionally trying to keep these a lot shorter with a lot more room for Q&A. So we'll run through this next steps and then we're going to open up to the floor.
Next steps. What are we at? Here we go. So obviously we're here from the Pax8 Academy. So our role is to help support partners and grow their businesses and provide them with educational resources to do so. This series of webinars is one of them. We've also got some technical webinars running as well at the moment, and some very product focused ones for those who want to learn about product. In addition, there's a load of content in our learning management system. So all Pax8 partners have access to thousands of resources and training courses for free, which is pretty cool. So we are going to send you out a sales prospecting worksheet. That'll come out on your email later today.
It will actually, I think, be next week. I had an issue. I lost my working copy, so I'm going to rewrite it, and it'll be next week. Sorry, guys.
It'll be next week. So that one is specifically the work we've been doing on that is specifically around solution selling rather than technical selling, which oh, thank you, Joseph. Joseph's just said, David, perhaps you should have backed it up in the cloud. We are going to run these webinars monthly. So coming up in March, we'll send you the details. We're going to be running another one. We'd love to hear from you guys. We've got a list of topics that people wanted. And that's where this came from. We had some topics in mind. We were set on those topics, and then we got some requests. And the cloud first was one that was top of a number of lists from people. So that's why this one got bumped up and became the February webinar. If you've got any thoughts, feel free to chuck them in the chat. Any topics you'd love to hear us talk through. We've got quite an extensive list, but we're always open to input as well. And for those who are interested, we actually have 2 peer groups launching. This is our 0 to 1 million peer group. So this is designed specifically for businesses that are maybe 1 to 6 employees and or brand new startup MSPs. And we go through, it's a hybrid coaching educational peer group. So it's facilitated by David. He's one of our coaches who coach our larger MSP clients, and he's going to provide a whole lot of resources and educational material. But it operates as a peer group. So we want people to collaborate, work together, share their experience as they all grow together. That's the design behind this peer group. It's been running in the US for some time, our Pax8 Academy in the US, and they're getting some really great results from it. So we thought this would be a wonderful one to start locally here. And in addition to that, I did mention there's other peer groups we are starting next month, our service management peer group. So for service managers, this is probably larger MSPs, but if you've got a service manager who would like to learn more about being a service manager and connect with their peers at other MSPs and learn best practices from other MSPs, our service manager peer group's kicking off next month.
Fantastic. So we're going to open the floor. If anyone had any, you can write in the chat, or we'll unlock the talking in a sec. But yeah, if there's anything from that you thought was fantastic, that you completely disagreed with, that you thought breathing is optional and I should have sucked it up, whatever feedback you've got, I'd love to hear it. And then we've got 15 minutes for more broad Q&A. And I'm going to just stop the recording. But yeah, we're going to keep on for a few more minutes.